Right, so this is largely a review of junior set material, solving using the quadratic formula. Here I've got my quadratic formula. I'm going to label it ax squared plus bx plus c, as we've been doing since Algebra 1. One thing then I'm going to do is, and I really would strongly encourage you to do this, make sure you state the value of a, b, and b is minus 2, not 2, be careful there, and c is negative 25. I would always state a, b, and c on the side, because just picking them directly out of the formula, there really is a chance that you'll make a slip and that you'll drop a sign or something. So state the formula: minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Make sure you don't do this. That's wrong. The fraction line or the divide line goes all the way across. Right, so we're going to sub in everything. Why am I still writing in red? So x is equal to minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared. Because 5 is positive, I won't bother with a bracket. If that was a negative number, I would definitely use a bracket there. Otherwise, your calculator will give you the wrong answer. Minus 4 times a is 5 and c is negative 25. All over 2a, 2 times 5. So that gives me. Now, a lot of students I see break this down and do the little bit inside the square root first, whatever. Please don't do that. At this point, you have gotten all the method marks, all the working out marks you're going to get. Breaking this down into individual calculations is just introducing the possibility of making an error or a slip. Put all of it into your calculator exactly as it appears. We're just going to use the plus first, and we'll come back and we'll look at the minus afterwards. So I'm going to put all of this into the calculator, even the minus. Now, we know that's positive 2, but if you really are worried that you'll make a slip, just let your calculator do the heavy lifting. So I'm going to start by hitting the fraction button on your calculator. Minus 2 plus square root of 5 squared minus 4 minus 4 bracket 5 close bracket open bracket minus 25 close bracket, go down to the bottom of the fraction, 2 bracket 5. What I see on my calculator screen looks exactly the same as what's written down on my page. So that really is a good tip for you, is that anything you see on your calculator, you should also see on the page. And that is how you show you're working out. Now, what does that give me? That gives me, does it tell me decimal places or anything? Let's give it to 2 dp, 2.49. In order to get the other solution, we're then going to not clear our screen and our calculator screen and start again. In order to get the other solution, we're just going to use these little arrows on the calculator. Now, you might have a newer calculator than me. All of the calculators have these arrow buttons. So I'm going to use the arrows to go back in, back, until I get to that plus. When I get to that plus, hit the delete button and change it to a minus. Oops, and change it to a minus. There you go. It equals. And then SD to turn it into, that's the exact answer. And then the SD button, turn it into a decimal. Okay, so minus 2.09. Those are my two solutions. Have a go at the second question. All right, so those are two straightforward examples. Hopefully here you were okay with putting the -8 in the bracket to square it. Really, really important. So we're still on solving using the quadratic formula, but here you'll notice things have gotten a little bit more interesting. So we're dealing with algebraic fractions here. So it just doesn't even look like a quadratic. So we're going to have to just use our instinct to try and get through this a little bit and then see if we can recognize anything. So we covered algebraic fractions in Algebra 1. So if you missed that, or if you're a little bit rusty on it, I would suggest before you go on any further with this video, you go back to the algebraic fractions video in Algebra 1. But we're going to just crack on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn two fractions into one fraction. So we need one fraction line. Our denominator is the lowest common multiple of both of these, which is x minus 1 times x. We say to ourselves, what do we do to the bottom? of the first fraction. So the denominator or the bottom was x minus 1. Now it's x minus 1 times x. So that got times by x. And whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. And look at this fraction here. The old denominator was x. It's now turned into x minus 1 times x. So that got multiplied by x minus 1. So whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. Now there's still an equal to 3 there, which I haven't done anything with. Would you be happier to write it as 3 over 1? I don't know. If you need to, that's fine. You can do that. I'm going to just highlight that so that you're clear. It's not part of the question. It's just my little bit of working out. Okay, so I'll do a little bit of tidying up here on the numerator. X plus 4x minus 4 all over x minus 1 times x is equal to 3 over 1. So that's 5x minus 4 over x minus 1 times x is equal to 3 over 1. So now we're in the situation where we've got one fraction equals one fraction. Now, whenever we've got one fraction equals one fraction, we cross multiply. And cross multiplying is keep the equals where it is, that times that, and that times that. So you've got 1 times 5x minus 4 is equal to 3 times x minus 1. So this can actually be done by factorizing, splitting the middle term and all that. But since we're here to practice a quadratic formula, let's do that instead. So I'm going to come up now here because I've run out of space. So x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. Now, usually you won't get marks for stating the formula, but you will get marks for what they call any correct substitution. So minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So as soon as you do this, substitute in minus 8. At that point, you've already picked up some marks. Any correct substitution will gain you some marks. The formula itself usually won't. So minus 8 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. 2 times 3. And again, I'm not going to waste my time with doing this in separate parts. All goes into the calculator in one go. Okay, second question there's very similar, so hopefully you'll be okay with cracking on with that yourselves. All right, so one of the common problems the students encounter with these questions is that they put it into the calculator and the calculator says math error. Now, the most common reason I see for that happening is in here inside under the square root, if students forget to put the bracket around a negative number, it will make this negative 81 instead of positive 81, which then often leads to the bit inside the bracket being negative. Now, as you know, when you try to square root a negative number, you run into problems and your calculator tells you it's a math error. When we get on to complex numbers much later in the course, we will be looking at the square root of negative numbers. But for now, if you see a math error, you've probably made a mistake somewhere. Go back and the first thing you should check is there a bracket around the negative number to be squared? Okay, on to the next video then for solving using the graphical method.